Sometimes the only way to win is to stop playing the game. This isn't just a clever saying. For some people, it's a survival strategy. And today, I want to share a story that perfectly illustrates this. A story about a woman who chose to become a ghost to her own family. I met Molly on a hiking trail, one of those crisp autumn mornings where the air feels full of possibilities. We got to talking, and she shared something that stopped me in my tracks. 3 years ago, she cut off her entire toxic family. Not just a fight, not just setting boundaries, but a complete and total separation. She disappeared. Molly grew up as the family's problem solver, their emotional punching bag, and their financial safety net. From a young age, she was the responsible one. Her parents were masters of manipulation, always making her feel guilty if she didn't drop everything to cater to their needs. Her siblings weren't much better. They saw her as an ATM and a free therapist, only calling when they needed something. She paid for car repairs, bailed them out of debt, and mediated their constant draining dramas. Her own life, her dreams, her happiness, they were always on the back burner. Whenever she achieved something, they'd either downplay it or find a way to make it about them. Oh, you got a promotion? That's nice. Now, about the money I need for my new business idea. There was no genuine support, no celebration of her successes, just a constant draining pool of entitlement. She was their anchor, but an anchor that was slowly being dragged to the bottom of the ocean. The breaking point wasn't a single dramatic event, but a slow, painful realization. It was the death by 1,000 cuts. It was the missed birthdays because she was busy fixing a sibling's mess. It was the sleepless nights worrying about her parents' self-inflicted financial crises. She looked in the mirror one day and didn't recognize the exhausted, anxious person staring back at her. She realized she wasn't living, she was just existing to serve them. The game was rigged, and the only way to win was to walk away from the table. So she made a plan. It was drastic, but necessary. Over 6 months, she quietly saved money, found a new job in a city hundreds of miles away, and legally changed her name. She didn't announce it, didn't have a final confrontation. One day, she just packed her car, deleted her old social media accounts, changed her number, and drove away. She became a ghost. The first few months were a strange mix of terror and liberation. The silence was deafening. Her phone didn't ring with another crisis. Her bank account wasn't being drained by another emergency. She had to fight the ingrained guilt, the voice in her head that screamed she was a terrible daughter and sister. But slowly that voice faded, replaced by something new, peace. She started hiking, which is how we met. She took up painting. She made friends who celebrated her, who asked how she was doing and genuinely wanted to know the answer. For the first time, her life was her own. She described it as breathing fresh air after being trapped in a stuffy, smoke-filled room for 30 years. The weight she'd been carrying wasn't just emotional. She physically felt lighter. Now, you might be wondering what happened to the family she left behind. Molly found out through a distant relative she still had a cordial, if remote, relationship with. At first, her family was furious. They called her selfish, ungrateful. They tried to track her down, not out of concern, but because their support system had vanished. The machine had broken down because its most critical part was gone. Then slowly, reality set in. Without Molly to bail them out, her parents' debts spiraled. Her siblings had to face the consequences of their own poor decisions. The constant drama didn't stop, but now there was no one to clean up the mess. They started turning on each other. The relative told Molly that her mother once broke down, saying, "I don't understand." We gave her everything. The tragic irony was they had only ever taken. They finally realized far too late that Molly wasn't their problem solver. She was the only thing holding their fragile world together. They didn't lose a daughter or a sister. They lost their primary resource, and in that realization lies the deepest regret. Not for how they treated her, but for what her absence cost them. Molly's story is a powerful reminder that you are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Sometimes the most profound act of self-love is to walk away from people who see your light not as something to cherish, but as something to consume. Her ghosting them wasn't an act of cruelty. It was an act of survival, and in her silence, she finally found her voice. What do you think about Molly's decision? Let me know in the comments below. It's a complex situation, and I'm curious to hear your perspectives. Thanks for watching, and if this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more. See you next time.